speed dating. Now, I've heard about speed dating, but what was interesting that our age group actually embraces speed dating more than any other age. I find that so hard to believe.
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. I want to thank Tina Jesso for staying over another segment talking love and relationships after 50, specifically finding love after 50, and in this case, offline. Tina, thanks for joining me again.
We could talk all day, Silk. I so enjoy our conversations.
Well, you give great advice. I will link to our last segment where we did talk about going back to the basics. How do you meet someone when you're just sick and tired of online dating? Going back and really refocusing on connecting in person. So, like I said, we'll link to that. What we ended with, and I can't wait to talk about this. I find this so interesting when I was doing research on, connecting offline, was speed dating. Now, I've heard about speed dating, but what was interesting, this was on a site, the seniorlist.com or something, that our age group actually embraces speed dating more than any other age. I find that so hard to believe. And when I mentioned it to you, you told me that you actually used to coordinate speed dating events. So let's talk about that. How does speed dating work, and why would it work, especially for us?
Yeah, such a great question. And it's such a creative and efficient way, actually, to meet people. And can happen on two levels, right? You can either do virtual speed dating, which I was coordinating, as well as in person speed dating. We were gearing up to do in person speed dating when COVID hit. And so it was a perfect opportunity to try this out. And it actually worked really well. But either way, whether you're doing it virtually or in person, it's all about getting, a group of singles together. Your coordinator will make sure there's a balance. If you're out to meet people of the opposite sex, for example, or in a certain age group, find that out in advance for sure. But basically, the idea is to get, like, usually it's between 20 to 30 singles together. You're matched up according to sex, and you have anywhere from, let's say, 3 to 10 minutes to meet with every single person, for example, of the opposite. If we're talking about a heterosexual event, you have that amount of time to speak to every single person who was at the event.
Let me ask you one quick
Yeah.
question. The before the event. So you register for this. You register
Yeah.
for an event. You obviously give your age, blah blah blah, and there's a fee involved. I take it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's people need to know that. Uh, so before, your coordinator then puts a group together that he or she thinks will work, right? I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into this, I would think, to put this together.
Yeah, there is a lot of work, especially at the beginning. But once you're up and running and you have a name, then people naturally come back to you, especially if they've had positive experiences in the past. The best way to find out about something in your event is either by talking to, a friend who's single who happened to have done this before, or just Google it, right? Singles events over 40 happening in San Francisco or happening in Toronto. And there's so many different things that are out there.
Well, in this
Um,
case, it would be our age group, the over 50 or the yeah. I googled it; it was interesting. There was a ton of stuff. It was so
yeah,
that I was just kind of floored that there's that much out there. The actual event, then you were starting to talk about that. I just wanted to clarify the registration process. You have 2 minutes to sit down. I mean, they literally have a bell.
yes. So if you're in an in-person event, it's basically like a bell or a buzzer or a gong or whatever it is. And basically you're sitting at separate tables and you get to move around. The advantage of doing dating like this in a group setting is that, first of all, you have people that have something in common. First of all, you're looking for love, you're looking for a mate, and you're in the right age category. And maybe even it's a part of town that's interesting to you. You'd like to meet someone that lives close to you geographically. And what happens is that it's usually in a restaurant where you have either part or the whole restaurant. So that it's noise reduced. You can hear the other person talking. Yeah, it's just so efficient. So you have that 5 to 10 minutes, or even I've never heard of 2 minutes, Silka, that you mentioned, but that could be very interesting if you have a lot of people, maybe. But typically, it's 5 to 10 minutes. So the idea is that you don't. They tell you don't exchange names or numbers at the table. Wait till you meet everybody. And then what happens is at the end, give to the organizer the people, your top three, your top five, whatever it is they choose, of people that you would like to meet again. And then you give it to them. And if there's a match, if the other person wants to meet you as well, then they send you their information, their phone number, their email, what have you. Can I go
Yeah,
ahead?
just one question in there is, so you don't have to worry about rejecting anybody or being rejected.
No.
Do you when if you don't want to meet anybody there, you just log that and then you say goodbye, do your handshakes, and there is no, in-person rejection to deal with.
No, no, not at all. I mean, somebody could ask you in this speed date, "Oh, Silka, you seem like such an amazing woman, and I know this is out of the process, but is it okay if I have your phone number?" And, just be prepared for a respectful response. But other than that, no, Silka. This is why one of the advantages. You don't have to worry about that piece about rejection.
Good.
So that's for in person. Now let's talk virtual. The idea, the concept, the registration process, choosing the right event for you, according geographic and your age group and all of that is the same. However, different groups run different, right? So you got to be prepared for a Zoom call. So the preparation is a little bit different, but what I would tell everybody is I would send them a blurb before the speed dating, and usually they do, from what I understand, and they give you everything, tips to prepare. Make sure your Zoom link is working, you've got a good Wi-Fi connection, for example, and pretend that you're on an actual date and dress the part. Just because you're online doesn't mean that you have to be in your PJs or your sweatpants or whatever. You still want to make a great impression. Be conscious of your environment, for example, right? You want to make a good impression overall. And then when, they generally get everybody together in the general Zoom room, and then, the organizer usually welcomes everybody and tells you how it's going to work. Because I was in the area of personal growth and development, I actually had a guest dating coach every single week, right? That we were doing the speed dating. So this coach would talk a little bit about things like communication skills, great questions to ask on a date, and all of these things before we would do the breakout rooms. So in the speed dating virtual for pretty much all speed dating events, then they break you out into separate breakout rooms. And then what happens is that the organizer gives you a flash of 30 seconds till the end of your date. Clue it up.
That is so crazy. I wouldn't. I mean, what do you talk about? What is the first question? Who starts a conversation?
Right. So you know what? It depends on the event and how it's been organized. Like I said, on my events, I would have a guide because people are often nervous, and if it's their first time, then it's kind of awkward, just kind of breaking the ice. So we would have a couple of icebreakers, and what I would do is I would put in the chat, which is an area where you can see people's comments. And I was the only person that could comment because you kind of have to have control on that. So I would put in there possible questions that you could put in there. Like, for example, what's your favorite book? What's an ideal date for you? Just fun, random stuff that I would give them just to break the ice. I would have one icebreaker question, and then their own conversation would generally take off from there.
Okay, so the facilitator helps just make
Yes.
everybody comfortable and make sure that it's not totally awkward. Because I was just
Yes.
thinking, I don't know what that first question would be. This is so foreign to me. I love it. I'm so glad we're talking about this. And like I said,
Yeah.
I spent time online just now googling all this, and it's amazing how much is out there. This could really work for someone. And yes, a lot of people agree that this is something for the older generation because we know what we want. They're saying that because we know what we want, that this sort of interaction is really geared towards somebody that knows. Why waste all this time on blind dates or 2 hour dates when this can.
Yeah.
So if even if you don't meet the one or whatever or somebody that you want to see again, the event just kind of sounds fun to me.
You know what was interesting and what I was finding that a lot of people were the members of the same sex and opposite sex were developing friendships, because there was always already a baseline of something in common, which for us was people that were really interested in, had a growth mindset. And the same thing happens at the end of the call. You just email or text the organizer who are your top, choices that you would like to get together with again. And then when it's mutual, then the numbers are exchanged. My results with this is there were couples that got together, and what they said, and I asked them afterwards because this is really important, the feedback. Like, how is it that they were able to connect here, and what was it about the speed dating that really, forged the connection? And they said for them it was being prepared, that they were at the event to begin with, so that kudos to them for taking that action. But the second thing was the fact that they were really open to the suggestions that I was giving, right? So they did what was suggested, and it really worked out.
I love it. I love it. It'd be interesting to see what comments we get on this. If people have done it, if you have done it, I'd love to hear. And
Yeah.
between the two of us, we'll put some links down of some vetted, maybe virtual organizations or something. If you say, yeah,
Yeah.
these I've heard of this, because once if you get virtual, you can potentially get into the scam stuff. But I don't think it's anything like what we worry about with online dating. Well, Tina, we're at the end. Thank you for this conversation. Anything you want to add on this segment before we sign off?
Yes, three major benefits of speed dating is the fact that it's safe, it's all virtual. Number two, you get to verify everybody's profiles because you get to see them face to face. And you know what? It's a time saver. Because when you're online dating, it takes time to search through profiles, go on the dates, and you spend the money on the date, all of that. You just cut straight to the chase with this instead of, spending 3 weeks going on three different dates. You're 1 hour and you're on 5 to 10 different dates. Like, it can really, and you can meet, a significant other, like you can meet a future friend. So it really is a lot of fun. Highly suggest it.
I love it. Tina, thank you again. We will link to all of your information if people want to get hold of you directly. You are a terrific dating coach. So if you're in need of that, give Tina a call, and we'll see you next time on Second Act TV. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. And if there's a topic that you'd like to have us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. There's a little red suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.